At 7 months pregnant, Lauren Mercer stood barefoot on a rain-soaked driveway while her husband shoved the last black trash bag of her clothes off the porch with his shoe. He didn't look angry anymore. That was what hurt most. He looked relieved. Behind him, his mother crossed her arms like she was watching a stain finally get scrubbed out. "You've been living off my son long enough," she said. Then Grant looked straight at Lauren's swollen belly and called her what he had clearly been practicing for weeks: a financial burden. 2 weeks later, he would see her face on Forbes and realize he had just thrown away the one person holding his life together. Welcome to today's story. If you enjoy emotional drama and shocking twists, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more unforgettable stories. And before we begin, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. 2 weeks earlier, the house had still felt like something she could fix. Lauren had been standing in the kitchen that morning, one hand pressed to her lower back, waiting for the kettle to click off. The baby had been restless all night. Her doctor had warned her to slow down, to avoid stress, to rest more. But rest didn't exist in a house where silence felt like judgment. Grant walked in already dressed for work. Crisp shirt, perfect tie, not a wrinkle anywhere. He barely looked at her. "You didn't send that RSVP for the Holloway dinner, right?" he asked, scrolling through his phone. Lauren blinked. "I thought we agreed I wouldn't go." "My doctor, it's just dinner," he cut in. "You don't have to make everything a medical situation." She swallowed. The kettle clicked behind her. "I've been having contractions at night," she said quietly. "Not full ones, just enough that I'm supposed to take it seriously." Grant exhaled like she had inconvenienced him. "That's exactly what I mean," he said. "Everything becomes a reason you can't show up." The words hung there, not loud, not explosive, just heavy. Lauren turned off the stove and poured the water slowly. Her hands were steady, but her chest felt tight. "I do show up," she said. "Just not the way you want me to." He didn't answer. He grabbed his keys. From the hallway, Denise's voice floated in. "Grant, honey, you're going to be late." She stepped into the kitchen a second later, already dressed like she was going somewhere important, even though she never left the neighborhood before noon. Her eyes moved over Lauren in one quick sweep. The loose dress, the flat shoes, the tired face. "You're still in that?" Denise asked. Lauren looked down at herself. "It's comfortable." Denise gave a small, tight smile. Comfortable isn't always appropriate, especially when your husband is trying to build something. Grant didn't correct her. That was the part Lauren couldn't ignore anymore. Not the comments, not the tone, the silence. She set the mug down and leaned against the counter, steadying herself as another dull ache rolled through her abdomen. Not strong, but there. "Did you need something, Denise?" she asked. Denise walked closer, lowered her voice just enough to feel personal. "You're going to be a mother," she said. "That means understanding what you contribute to a family, not just emotionally, practically." Lauren felt something shift in her chest. "I do contribute," she said. Denise tilted her head. "Working on your little computer projects from home isn't the same as carrying a household." Grant let out a small laugh. Not mean, not loud, just enough. Really looked this time. There was no confusion in his face. No hesitation. He agreed. That realization didn't hit like a punch. It landed slowly, like something settling into place. "You think I don't carry anything," she said. Grant shrugged. "I think things would be easier if you stopped pretending you were doing more than you are." The baby shifted hard inside her. Lauren pressed her hand to her stomach, breathed through it. For a second, she almost explained everything. The late nights, the calls he never asked about, the emails she answered while he was out networking. But she stopped. Because if 3 years of marriage hadn't made him curious, nothing she said now would change that. Grant checked his watch. "I'm serious about the dinner," he said. "Paige's family is important." There it was, a name that had been coming up more and more, too casually, too often. Lauren nodded once. "I heard you." He didn't hear her back. The front door closed. Denise followed him out, still talking, her voice fading down the driveway. Lauren stood alone in the kitchen. The house was quiet again, but it didn't feel like peace. It felt like something had already ended, and she was the last one to accept it. She picked up her phone, scrolled through her emails. There it was. A message from legal. Subject: updated closing timeline. Her eyes paused on the date. It had been moved up 2 weeks. Lauren stared at the screen. Then slowly she exhaled. Upstairs, she heard a drawer slide open. Soft, careful. Not the way Grant moved when he thought she was home. Her body went still. He had just left. So who was upstairs touching her things? She stepped toward the stairs, quiet, listening, and for the first time, a thought crossed her mind that didn't go away. This wasn't just a marriage falling apart. Something else was already in motion. Lauren froze at the bottom of the stairs. The house was supposed to be empty. Grant had just left. Denise had followed him out. She had heard the front door close. She had watched their cars pull away. But that sound upstairs hadn't been her imagination. A drawer, slow, careful. Not someone rushing, someone taking their time. Her first instinct was denial. Maybe the house had shifted. Maybe something fell. Maybe she was just tired. 7 months pregnant, running on broken sleep. It would have been easy to convince herself of that. But her body didn't believe it. Her body went still for a reason. She reached for her phone on the counter. Her fingers hovered over the screen, ready to call someone. But who? Calling Grant didn't feel safe. Not anymore. Calling the police felt too big, too uncertain. She needed to see first. Slowly, she moved toward the stairs. Each step creaked louder than usual. Or maybe she was just hearing everything too clearly now. Her heartbeat, her breath, the faint hum of the air conditioning. At the top of the stairs, she stopped, listened. Nothing. Silence again. That almost made it worse. She stepped into the hallway. The bedroom door was slightly open, just a few inches, enough to see the edge of the dresser. Lauren pushed the door wider. No one. The room looked normal at first glance. Bed made, curtains half drawn, her laptop on the desk where she left it. The air smelled faintly like Denise's perfume, the sharp floral kind that lingered too long. Lauren's eyes moved to the dresser, the second drawer, the one she kept her personal documents in. It wasn't fully closed. Her chest tightened. She walked over, slower now, like she was approaching something that might break if she moved too fast. She pulled the drawer open. Everything was slightly off, not gone, not obviously disturbed, but shifted. Papers not stacked the way she left them. A folder turned sideways. Her prenatal records no longer tucked neatly under the others. Someone had gone through this, carefully. Lauren pressed her hand to the edge of the dresser to steady herself. The baby moved again, a sharp kick that pulled her back into her body. Okay, she whispered under her breath. Okay. She forced herself to think, not panic. Think. Denise had been in the house. That was the only explanation that made sense. Grant would never go through her things like this. He didn't care enough. But Denise cared about control, about appearances, about anything that could be used later. Lauren pulled out the folder completely, flipped through it. Prenatal visit summaries, blood work, doctor's notes. Her eyes stopped on one page. A sticky note was attached, not hers, written in Denise's neat, tight handwriting. Ask lawyer if this supports emotional instability. Lauren didn't breathe. For a second, the room felt too small, too quiet. The words sat there, plain and simple. No drama, no exaggeration. Just tense. Her hands started to shake. Not from fear alone, from something colder. Understanding. This wasn't just about pushing her out of the house. This was about building a case. Lauren sank down slowly onto the edge of the bed, the paper still in her hand. Her mind started connecting things she had ignored before. The questions about her sleep, the comments about her mood. The way Grant had started documenting small arguments like they were evidence. The dinner he wanted her to attend. The people he wanted her to impress. The narrative he was building: unstable, withdrawn, not capable. A mother who shouldn't have full custody. Lauren closed her eyes. For a moment, the hurt hit first. The betrayal. The realization that the man she had trusted with her life, with their child, had already decided who she was going to be in the story he told about her. Then something else settled in, not louder, but stronger: clarity. She opened her eyes again and looked down at the note. Carefully, she peeled it off, folded it once, slipped it into her pocket. Evidence. That word came to her without effort. Lauren stood up, walked back to the dresser. This time, she didn't just look. She checked everything, slowly, deliberately. What was touched? What was missing? What was copied? Because this wasn't random. This was preparation. And if they were preparing something, then she needed to stop reacting and start preparing too. Downstairs, her phone buzzed. A message from Grant. Don't forget about dinner tonight. Paige will be there. Lauren stared at the screen. Then she looked back at the open drawer, at the space where her life had just been quietly rearranged without her consent. Her fingers tightened around the phone. For the first time, she didn't feel like she was falling behind. She felt like she had just seen the real game, and she was no longer the only one playing blind. She typed back one word, okay. Then she reached for her laptop, because if Grant and his mother were building a version of her, she was going to make sure it collapsed before they ever got to use it. Lauren didn't rush. That was the first real change. Before, she would have confronted, asked questions, tried to fix the tension before it turned into something worse. but now she moved slower, more deliberate, like every step mattered. She sat at the kitchen table with her laptop open, staring at the email from legal. The updated closing timeline, the revised acquisition date, 10 days. Her name was on the internal draft. Not public yet, but final, co-founder, largest individual stakeholder. She let that sit, not as a weapon, as truth. Upstairs, the open drawer was still there, the shifted papers. The sticky note now folded in her pocket. She touched it again, just to make sure it was real. It was. Lauren opened a new document, not for work, for herself. She started listing things, dates, comments, small moments that had felt off but never loud enough to question. Grant asking if she had taken her vitamins in front of his mother, like she needed supervision. Denise mentioning how emotional swings were normal in pregnancy, but saying it in a way that felt recorded, not concern. Patterns, that was what she needed. Not feelings, not arguments. Patterns. Her phone buzzed again. Grant, wear something nicer tonight. It matters. Lauren stared at the message. Then she typed back, I will. She didn't argue. Not anymore. By the time evening came, she was already tired. The kind of tired that didn't go away with sleep. Her body ached. Her feet were swollen. The baby pressed low, heavy. Still, she got dressed. Not to impress, to observe. The restaurant was upscale but not flashy. The kind of place people used to signal they belonged in certain rooms. Grant was already there when she arrived, standing near the entrance with Paige. Lauren saw them before they saw her. Paige was closer than she expected. Not just physically, familiar, comfortable. Like she had already been introduced into Grant's world in ways Lauren hadn't noticed. Grant smiled when he saw Lauren, but it didn't reach his eyes. Hey, he said, stepping forward. You made it, I said I would, toward her extending a hand. Perfect posture, perfect smile. You must be Lauren. I've heard so much about you. Lauren shook her hand. I'm sure you have. The table conversation moved quickly. Investments, clients, travel. Things Lauren used to follow easily, but now she noticed something else. Grant was performing. Every sentence sharpened. Every laugh calculated. Every time Lauren spoke, he redirected, not obvious enough to call out, but consistent. Paige watched it happen and didn't stop it. At one point, the server asked Lauren if she wanted a drink. Before she could answer, Grant cut in. Water's fine. She's been sensitive lately. Lauren felt the table shift. Just slightly, just enough. She looked at him. He didn't look back. That was when it became clear. This wasn't just about impressing clients. This was positioning, rewriting. And Lauren was the part of the story being edited out. She placed her hands in her lap to keep them from shaking. Then she smiled. Soft, controlled. And for the rest of the dinner, she didn't fight for space. She watched, listened, collected. Because now she knew exactly what he was doing. And more importantly, she knew he thought she still didn't see it. When the dinner ended, Grant walked Paige to her car first. Lauren stood on the sidewalk alone, the night air cool against her skin. She watched them from a distance. Paige touched his arm when she laughed. Grant didn't pull away. Lauren's chest tightened, not from jealousy, from clarity. By the time Grant came back, she had already decided something. I'm going to sleep in the guest room tonight, she said calmly. He frowned. Why? She held his gaze, because for the first time she wasn't asking for his version of the truth. I need space, she said. He hesitated, then nodded like it didn't matter. Do what you need. Lauren turned toward the car, but as she reached for the handle, she heard something behind her. Grant's phone buzzed. He glanced down. For a second, his face changed. Not annoyance, not stress, something else. Lauren didn't mean to look, but she did, just enough to catch the name on the screen, Paige, and the preview beneath it. Did you tell her yet, or should I? Lauren didn't say anything about the message. Not in the car, not when Grant unlocked the front door, not even when Denise looked up from the living room with that same tight smile, like she had been waiting to read Lauren's face the moment she walked in. How was dinner? Denise asked. Lauren slipped off her shoes slowly. Productive, she said. Grant gave a small laugh, like that answer amused him. That's one way to put it. Lauren didn't look at him. She walked past them both, one hand resting on the wall for balance as a dull pressure built low in her abdomen. Not sharp, but enough to remind her she needed to be careful. I'm going to lie down, she said. Denise's voice followed her. You should try to be more present, Lauren. These things matter. Lauren paused at the base of the stairs. For a second, she almost turned around. Almost, but she didn't, because now she understood something she hadn't before. This wasn't advice. This was pressure. She went upstairs and closed the guest room door behind her, locked it, sat on the edge of the bed. Then she let the silence settle. Her hand moved to her stomach, slow, grounding. The baby shifted, softer this time. "I've got you," she whispered. And for the first time that night, she meant it as a promise, not a hope. She pulled her phone out and opened her notes again. Added one more line: dinner, witnesses present. Husband undermines responses. Labels sensitivity in front of third party. Then she added another. Message from Paige. Suggests planned disclosure. Unknown content. Lauren stared at the words. Planned. That was the part that stayed with her. Whatever Grant was doing, it wasn't reactive. It wasn't emotional. It was structured, timed. That made it more dangerous. Downstairs, she heard Denise's voice again. Lower now, muffled. Grant responded. She couldn't make out the words. But the tone, it wasn't frustration. Lauren stood up slowly and moved to the door, pressed her ear lightly against it. Still too faint. She stepped back. No, she wasn't going to play that game. Not like this. Instead, she walked to the desk and opened her laptop. Pulled up her email, scrolled to the legal thread again. Then she did something she hadn't planned to do tonight. She replied, direct. I need to schedule a call first thing in the morning. There may be an emerging custody concern. Her finger hovered over send. For a second, doubt crept in. This was real now. Not something she could undo. Not something she could explain away later. She pressed send. The email went through instantly. Lauren exhaled slowly. That was the line. Not loud, not dramatic, but it was there. From this point on, she wasn't just reacting to her marriage falling apart. She was protecting herself from what came next. A few minutes later, her phone buzzed again. Another message from Grant. Don't overthink tonight. You've been off lately. We'll talk tomorrow. Lauren stared at the words. Off lately. There it was again. The framing, the setup. She typed nothing back. Instead, she opened her calendar and blocked off the entire next morning. Doctor, lawyer, no more waiting. No more giving them time to define her first. She placed the phone down and leaned back against the chair, her eyes drifting to the closed door. Something inside her had shifted. Quietly, completely. Downstairs, a door shut. Then footsteps. Coming up, measured. Lauren didn't move. The steps stopped right outside her door, a pause. Then Grant's voice, softer now. Lauren, we need to talk. She looked at the handle. It didn't turn, because she had locked it. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel trapped on the inside. She felt protected. But then he said something that made her blood run cold. I think it's time you understood what's happening with the baby. Lauren didn't open the door. She stood there, a few feet away, staring at the handle while Grant waited on the other side. The silence stretched just long enough to feel intentional. What do you mean? She asked, her voice steady through the wood. Another pause. Then Grant sighed like he was being forced into something uncomfortable. You've been different lately, Lauren. You know that. She closed her eyes for a second. There it was again. Not concern. Framing. I'm pregnant, she said. That tends to affect people. That's not what I mean. His tone shifted, slightly firmer now, like he had rehearsed this part. I've talked to someone, he continued, just to understand what's normal and what's not. Lauren felt her fingers curl slowly at her sides. Without me, I didn't think you'd be open to it, he said quickly. You've been shutting down every time I try to bring things up. That almost made her laugh. Shutting down. Like silence hadn't been her only safe option in this house for months. What exactly did you tell them, she asked. Grant hesitated. And in that hesitation, she heard everything. I just described what I've been seeing, he said. Mood swings, withdrawal, you forgetting things, getting overwhelmed. Lauren's heart pounded, but her voice stayed calm. You mean being tired, being pregnant, being dismissed every time I speak. That's not fair. No, she said quietly. It's accurate. There was movement outside the door, a shift in weight, like he was getting closer. Lauren, I'm trying to help, he said. This isn't about blame. It's about making sure the baby has a stable environment. The baby. Always the baby. Used like a shield. Lauren pressed her hand against her stomach again, grounding herself, slowing her breath. What does that mean? She asked. Grant didn't answer right away. Then carefully, he said, it means we might need to look at different living arrangements temporarily, just until things settle. Lauren felt something inside her go completely still. Different living arrangements. He was saying it like it was reasonable, like it was a shared decision. You want me to leave, she said. I think space would be good for you, he replied. And for the baby. For a second, she almost believed him, not the words, the tone, the way he softened it, wrapped it in concern. That was the most dangerous part. Because if she hadn't seen the note, if she hadn't read the message, if she hadn't started paying attention, she might have agreed. She might have walked out thinking it was temporary, thinking it was mutual. Lauren stepped closer to the door, not to open it, just close enough that her voice didn't have to travel. Did Paige help you come up with that? She asked. Silence is immediate. You saw that? He said. Lauren let that sit between them. Yes, she answered. Another pause, longer this time. Then his voice changed again. Less careful. More direct. This isn't about her, no? Lauren said. Because it sounded like she was waiting for you to tell me something. That's not what that was. Then explain it. He didn't. Instead, he exhaled sharply. Frustrated now. You're doing it again, he said, twisting things, making connections that aren't there. Lauren almost smiled, not because it was funny, because it was familiar. Gaslighting didn't always come as lies. Sometimes it came as tone, as dismissal, as making you question what you just saw with your own eyes. I'm not twisting anything, she said. I'm paying attention. Another silence. This one felt different, like something had shifted, like he realized she wasn't playing the same role anymore. When he spoke again, his voice was lower, colder. If you're going to react like this, he said, then maybe I was right to be concerned. Lauren's chest tightened, not from fear, from clarity. This wasn't a conversation. It was documentation. Every word she said, every reaction. Filed away, used later. She stepped back from the door. I'm not opening this tonight, she said. What? I'm not having this conversation like this, she continued. If you have concerns, you can bring them to me properly. With me, there. Not through someone else's. Not behind my back. No, she said. I'm setting a boundary. The word hung there, new, unfamiliar, even to her. On the other side of the door, Grant didn't respond. For a moment, she thought he might push harder, but instead she heard his footsteps move away. Slow, measured, not defeated, just adjusting. Lauren stood there for a long time after he left, listening. Then finally she exhaled and sat down on the edge of the bed again. Her hands trembled now, not because she was unsure, because she wasn't anymore. She reached for her phone and opened her email again. Scrolled to the message she sent earlier. Then added one more line in a follow-up. Husband has initiated discussion about separation and implied concerns about maternal stability. This may escalate quickly. She hit send. Outside the house was quiet again. Too quiet. Lauren looked down at her stomach, her hand resting there. They're going to try to take you from me, she whispered. The words felt real the moment she said them. Not dramatic, not exaggerated, just true. And for the first time, the fear wasn't about losing her marriage. It was about losing her child. Her phone buzzed again. Not Grant this time. She hesitated, then answered. Hello? A calm female voice came through. Hi, is this Lauren Mercer? This is Dr. Keller's office. We received a call earlier today from someone requesting access to your prenatal records. Lauren's grip tightened on the phone. I didn't authorize that, she said. I understand, the voice replied gently. That's why we're calling. They identified themselves as your husband. Lauren's heart dropped, and, the woman added, after a small pause, they mentioned it was for a legal review. Lauren didn't sleep that night. She stayed sitting at the desk, the lamp casting a soft circle of light over her laptop, while the rest of the room stayed dim. Every sound in the house felt sharper now, every creak, every step, every door opening and closing downstairs. She replayed the call in her head. He called the doctor. He tried to access her records for legal review. Not concern, not care, strategy. Lauren wrapped her arms around herself and leaned back in the chair. The baby shifted again, slower now, like even that small movement needed more effort. I know, she whispered, I know. Morning came without her noticing. Just a slow light creeping through the curtains. Her phone buzzed again, an email reply from legal, available at 8:30. Call me. She didn't wait. By the time Grant knocked on the guest room door again, she was already dressed. Lauren, he said calmer now. Can we talk? She opened the door this time, but she didn't step out. She stayed in the doorway, creating space between them. What do you need? She asked. Grant studied her face, maybe looking for signs, emotion, something he could use. You left your phone downstairs last night, he said, holding it out. Lauren took it without touching his hand. Thanks, he hesitated. Then softer, we should talk about what I said. We will, she replied. Just not right now, he frowned. Why not? Because I have a call with my lawyer. The word landed. Heavy. Real. Grant's expression changed immediately, not shocked. Alert. You got a lawyer, he asked. Lauren didn't answer the question directly. I'm getting advice, she said. That's reasonable. That's escalated, he muttered. Lauren held his gaze. No, she said quietly. This is me catching up. Something flickered in his eyes then. For the first time, he looked unsure. It didn't last long. Lauren, this doesn't have to turn into something ugly, he said. We can handle this like adults. She almost smiled. Like adults. As if going behind her back to build a case against her wasn't already ugly. As if calling her doctor without consent wasn't a line already crossed. Then start acting like one, she said. Grant's jaw tightened. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then he stepped back. Fine, he said. Do what you think you need to do. Lauren nodded once. I will. She closed the door before he could say anything else. At 8:30 in, she took the call. Her lawyer's voice was calm, direct, no drama. Lauren explained everything. The note, the dinner, the message, the call to her doctor. There was a pause on the other end. Then, okay, that's enough to take seriously. Lauren sat up straighter. What does that mean, she asked. It means you stop assuming good intent, the lawyer said. From this point forward, everything is documentation. Everything is formal. You don't argue. You don't explain. You protect. Lauren swallowed. And another pause. Then carefully, if he's already talking about your stability and trying to access medical records, you should assume he's preparing for a custody argument, especially if his mother is involved. Lauren closed her eyes for a second. It sounded worse out loud, more real. What do I do, she asked. You secure your medical records. You notify your doctor in writing that no information is to be released without your explicit consent. You keep communication in writing when possible. And Lauren, her grip tightened on the phone. Yes, you start thinking about where you'll go if you need to leave quickly. The words hit harder than anything else. Leave. Not as a choice, as a necessity. Lauren looked around the guest room, the bed, the dresser, the wall she had painted herself 3 years ago. This was her home, or at least it had been. Okay, she said quietly. When the call ended, she didn't move right away. She just sat there, breathing, thinking. Then she stood up, walked to the closet, and pulled out a small suitcase. Not because she was leaving today, but because she finally understood something she should have seen sooner. She wasn't being pushed out by accident. She was being prepared to leave on their terms. And if she didn't choose her own moment, they were going to choose it for her. Downstairs, she heard Denise's voice again. Sharp this time. Grant, you need to handle this before it gets out of control. Lauren froze. Handle this, not fix, not talk. Handle. She moved closer to the door and listened. Because something told her, whatever they were planning next, it wasn't going to wait. Lauren didn't go downstairs. She stood by the door, listening just long enough to understand the tone. Denise wasn't worried. She was impatient. That told Lauren everything she needed to know. She stepped back, grabbed her phone, and opened a new message to her doctor's office. Short, clear, no emotion. No medical information is to be released to anyone, including my spouse, without my written authorization. Please confirm receipt. She sent it. Then she opened another app, Secure Cloud Storage. She uploaded everything she had so far. Photos of the notes, screenshots of messages, a written timeline, dates, patterns. Small things that didn't look like much alone, but together they told a story. Not a perfect one, but a real one. Her hand paused over the keyboard for a second. Then she added something new, possible attempt to establish maternal instability narrative. She read it twice, cold, precise, necessary. By noon, Lauren forced herself to go downstairs, not to engage, to observe. Denise was in the kitchen, cutting fruit like nothing had changed. The TV played softly in the background, a daytime show about parenting tips. Lauren almost laughed at the irony. Good, you're up, Denise said without looking at her. You missed breakfast. I wasn't hungry, Denise finally turned. Her eyes scanned Lauren's face, searching for something. Cracks, weakness, emotion. Lauren gave her none. You should keep your strength up, Denise said, for the baby. There it was again, always wrapped in concern, always pointed. I am, Lauren replied. She walked to the fridge, poured herself water, took a slow sip. Normal, unreadable. Denise watched her the entire time. You know, she said softer now, Grant is under a lot of pressure. This isn't easy for him either. Lauren set the glass down carefully. What isn't? She asked. Denise hesitated just long enough to feel intentional. The situation, she said, changes. The stress it's putting on the household. Lauren looked at her, really looked this time. Not as her mother-in-law, as someone playing a role. You mean my pregnancy, Lauren said. Denise's lips tightened. I mean everything that comes with it. Lauren nodded slowly. Right, she didn't argue. That seemed to throw Denise off more than anything. Silence stretched. Then Denise tried again. You know, sometimes space can be good, she said. A little distance helps people reset, gain perspective. Lauren picked up her glass again. You and Grant already talked about that? She asked. Denise smiled faintly. We talk about what's best for the family. The family, Lauren almost said it out loud. Which family? The one she built with Grant? Or the one she was never really allowed into? Instead, she just nodded. I see. Denise relaxed slightly, like she thought something had landed. Like Lauren was starting to agree. That was the mistake. Because Lauren wasn't agreeing, she was coordinated. Planned. Not emotional, strategic. Her phone buzzed in her hand. A reply from the doctor's office. Confirmed. No information will be released without your authorization. We have documented the request. Lauren felt something settle in her chest, a small win. But real. Denise noticed a change. What is it? She asked. Nothing, Lauren said calmly, just taking care of something. Denise held her gaze for a second longer than necessary, then nodded. Good, she said. That's what you should be doing. Lauren almost smiled, not because it was kind, because it was ironic. For the first time in weeks, she actually was. That afternoon, Grant came home earlier than usual. He didn't greet her, didn't ask how she was. He went straight to the kitchen with Denise. Voices low, urgent. Lauren stayed in the living room, still listening. We can't drag this out, Denise whispered sharply. The longer she stays, the harder it gets. I know, Grant replied. I'm handling it, then handle it faster. Lauren's fingers tightened around the arm of the couch. There it was again. Not concern, not confusion. A timeline, a plan. She stood up slowly, walked toward the hallway. Not hiding her footsteps this time. Let them hear her coming. The conversation stopped instantly. Lauren stepped into the doorway. Grant turned. Denise didn't. What's going on? Lauren asked. Grant forced a neutral expression. Nothing, he said. Lauren nodded once, then looked directly at him. Good, she said, because I think we should all sit down tonight. Grant blinked. Why? Lauren held his gaze. Steady, clear. Because if you're making plans about my life, she said, I think it's time you start saying them out loud. Sign heavy. Uncomfortable. Denise finally turned. Grant didn't speak, but something in his face shifted. Not confidence, not pressure. Lauren saw it, and for the first time she realized something important. They were ready to move, but they weren't ready for her to push back. Fine, he said. Tonight. Lauren nodded, then turned away, calm, measured. But as she walked back toward the guest room, one thought stayed with her. Tonight wasn't just a conversation. It was the moment everything would finally be said. And once it was said, there would be no going back. They sat at the dining table like strangers negotiating a contract. Lauren didn't sit at the head. She chose the side closest to the door. Instinct, not strategy. Her body already knew she might need to leave. Grant sat across from her, Denise beside him. Not beside Lauren, that said enough. So, Lauren began, her hands folded calmly in front of her. Let's stop talking around it. Grant leaned back slightly, controlled, practiced. We're concerned about your well-being, he said. That's all this is. Lauren nodded slowly. No, she said, that's how you're presenting it. Denise sighed, like this was exhausting for her. Lauren, no one is attacking you, but you have to admit things have been unstable. Lauren reached into her pocket and placed the folded sticky note on the table. Smooth it out. Denise's handwriting. Ask lawyer if this supports emotional instability. Silence hit the room. Hard. Grant looked at his mother. Denise didn't move. Lauren didn't raise her voice. You went through my medical records, she said. You labeled my pregnancy symptoms as instability. And you contacted my doctor without my consent. Grant straightened. I didn't get anything from that's not the point. Her voice didn't shake. That's not the point, she repeated. Denise finally spoke, sharper now. We're trying to protect this child. Lauren turned to her slowly. No, she said. You're trying to control the narrative before a court ever sees it. Grant's jaw tightened. No one is taking your child. Lauren held his gaze. You already started. Silence again. Then Grant exhaled, dropping the soft tone. Look, he said, this isn't working. We both know that. You've checked out, you don't show up. You're not the partner I need. There it was. Finally. Honest. Lauren nodded once. And Pages? She asked. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. That was answer enough. Lauren stood up slowly, one hand resting briefly on the table for balance. Not weakness, just reality. I'm leaving tonight, she said. Denise blinked. That's not necessary. Lauren looked at her. Grant leaned forward. Lauren, don't make this dramatic. She almost smiled. You already did, she said. She turned, walked upstairs, and closed the door behind her. No yelling, no breaking, no begging, just done. 2 weeks later, Grant saw her face on a screen he wasn't supposed to care about. Forbes. He had been sitting in his office break room, scrolling mindlessly when someone said her name out loud. Wait, isn't that your wife? He looked up, and everything stopped. Lauren Mercer, co-founder, major shareholder. A company he had never asked about. A company he had dismissed as little computer work. There she was, composed, sharp, real, not the version he had created. The truth. The article was clean, professional, no drama, but the timing destroyed him. Because people started asking questions, quiet ones, about why his wife wasn't at home, about why she had been working in silence while he talked about ambition, about why he didn't seem to know anything about her. Paige stopped showing up after that. Not dramatically, just less often. Until not at all. Lauren didn't watch him fall. She didn't need to. She had already walked away. Her apartment was small, temporary, clean, safe. Her doctor appointments were now documented, protected. Her lawyer handled communication. Grant tried to call. She didn't answer. He sent messages, short, apologetic, then defensive, then quiet. She let them sit. Because for the first time, she understood something clearly. Closure wasn't something he could give her. It was something she chose. The baby came early, not dangerously, but enough to remind her how close everything had been. She held her child in a quiet hospital room. No Denise, no Grant, just her. And for a moment, the silence felt different. Not empty, peaceful. She looked down at her daughter's face, small, soft, unaware of everything that had almost happened. "You're safe," Lauren whispered, and this time, she knew it was true. Months later, Grant saw her again, not in person, on another cover, not just featured, leading, but by then it didn't feel like revenge, it felt like distance. A life he no longer had access to. Lauren didn't win because she became successful. She won because she stopped letting people define her worth. She stopped asking to be understood and started protecting what mattered. Her child, her boundaries, her peace. Sometimes the hardest part isn't leaving. It's accepting that the person you loved was never going to choose you over their own comfort. And once you see that, you stop trying to be chosen. You choose yourself. If you've ever had to walk away from a place that made you feel small just to protect your dignity, I'd really want to hear your story.